Alrighty. I am recording, yes. I just clicked the button 2 seconds ago. Yes. I'm gonna buy a hat that says, yes, I am recording. Yeah. Oh, okay. Or just tattoo it on my forehead. Yeah, I am recording. YouTube thinks we're all crazy now, so that's cool. Let's get started in on this studio. We have a few things to do. So one thing that we have to do is fix the ad route. That's the one that we didn't get to in the walkthrough. So we didn't do that one. The studio kinda, sorta, maybe a little bit did some stuff with it. You can see that they just put a little message here that says under construction. Well, we can do better than that. We know what this is supposed to look like. In fact, it's going to look very similar to something that we did in the walkthrough, right? The ad page is going to look very similar to the cross-off page. In fact, I would go so far as to say that we could probably steal the cross-off page and just modify it a little bit to get it to where we need it to be. So let's go ahead and make a new file, a new template called, what did they want us to call it? Add.html? Add confirmation, like this. All right. Oops, I put it in the wrong folder. That's okay. I can click it and drag it into the templates folder. If you do that on accident, happens. These things happen. All right, so I made my template. It's blank right now, but we just said that I can probably look at cross-off and steal some code. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing into my add confirmation, and now we just have to figure out what parts need to change. So one thing that needs to change is I don't need this strike tag anymore, right? In fact, what do I want that to be? Probably strong is fine, and make sure to switch the closing tag as well. This variable name is probably not valid anymore, right? So I can switch this to be something different. Added movie maybe is fine. And then I just need to change the language over here. Has been added to your watch list. Okay? We're still not done yet. So I've made my template. I've made some tweaks. I can try and get as much of this on the screen as possible. So I made my template. It looks very similar to cross-off. I just kind of tweaked some things a little bit. What's the other piece that I need to do to get this working? I need to render it. So I'm going to go back to main.py and get rid of this confirmation message and do a render instead. So render template, and then the first thing I give it is the name of the file, so add confirmation.html, and then the next thing I have to give it is what? The variable. So in this case, the variable that I have is called added movie, right? Added movie. So I'm going to say added movie equals, and now I have to figure out what the Python value is that I want to stick in here. So if I scroll up a little bit, look at my code, I can see that I've got this escaped value here for the new movie. So that's probably what I want. So I'll put that variable down below and save my code. And now we can test it out. Let's test it out. Oh, I'm not in my things. I'm not in my environment. Now I can do Python main.py. Copy and then paste. Okay, and so now we can type a movie into the box, and if everything we hooked everything up properly, it should work just like it did before, right? That was step one. We still have a couple more steps to do, but before I go to the next step, are there any questions about what we've done so far? That was very similar to the cross-off list.
So in the main one, you just changed that one line in the main.py.
Yep, this is the only line that I've changed in main.py so far.
Okay, go down just a little bit more like a PDF. Okay.
That last variable is the Python.
Any other questions before we do the next step? All right, let me go back to the instructions so that I know what we should be doing next here. We did this, we did that. We did this, yep. 2 more tasks. All right, we're gonna modify edit.html to display the watch list in an unordered list with bullets in front of each movie. All right, let's do that next. Notice that I shouldn't have to touch the Python at all to do this, right? Shouldn't have to modify the Python at all to do this. It's all inside of my templates. So I'm gonna go into edit.html. And right up here at the top, I want to make a list, correct? So what do I need to start typing here to make a list of all my movies? What's the first thing? UL tag, all right. And then inside of this UL tag, what do I want to see? I want to see a whole bunch of list items, LI tags. Do I know how many I'm going to need? No. What does it depend on? Depends on the list, right? I'm going to need a loop to go through my list and create a list tag, a list item tag for every single movie in my list. Well, we actually did something similar to that in the walkthrough today, right? With the drop-down menu, that's actually right down here. So this is another instance where I can probably just snatch this code, right? I'm going to grab this code. I'm going to put it up here. The biggest difference between this code and the code that we want is that this code makes option tags, but I don't want option tags. I want list item tags, LI tags, right? So let's just switch it, LI, and then I don't actually need this value anymore. That's not relevant to me. LI. This is okay because the watch list is already being passed in, correct? We already passed in the watch list to this template when we rendered it because we needed it for the drop-down menu, correct? So we already have it, so I don't even need to mess with the rendering. I already have the watch list in this file. I'm now using it in 2 different places, right? I'm using it in 2 different places. This should do it. This should do it. Just a few lines of code should accomplish what we're hoping for. So let's save our work and go back to the page and see. There we go. There we go. So just a few additional lines of code. Since we're reusing a variable that we already had, I didn't need to mess with the rendering at all. That's convenient. Any questions about this part? There's one more thing that we need to accomplish. One more thing. Any questions? All right, so the next thing that they want us to do actually is we're going to go to our movie watch list here. And I'm just going to temporarily comment this line of code out because I don't want to lose it. And I'm just going to put a line in here that returns an empty list. So I'm basically starting with an empty watch list, right? I'm replacing my watch list with an empty list. And before we move on, let's save our code and see what would happen to our website if I pass an empty list in here and instead of a list that's got a bunch of movies. Let's see what it's going to do. I'm going to come back and refresh, and you can see that, all right, the unordered list is gone, but then this drop-down looks a little, there's nothing in it. Yeah, that looks a little strange, right? That looks a little odd. And if I click the button, what happens? Anybody have any ideas? Bad request. Bad request because I told it to grab the movie out of the list, right? But there is nothing in the drop down, so it can't get a movie. So it tried to send a bad post request when I sent this form. So that's not a good thing. And so what we would like to do is modify our template one more time so that if the list is empty, I don't show actually, did I skip a step? No, that's all right. We're gonna, here, let me add a little header real quick. Sorry. I think I might have accidentally skipped a thing. All right. I just added a little header up here, right? My watch list. And so now if I go back and take a look at the page, right, you can see that this shouldn't show up because my list is empty. So I want to make it so that I can not display this, and so I can not display this form even because the list of movies is empty. I need to have some way of checking to see if my list is empty or not, and then deciding whether or not I should display the unordered list of movies and the cross-off form. Does that make sense? So how do we do that? Or where do we do that might be a better question. Where am I going to do that? Which file? In the HTML. That's right. So now the question is how? How do I do that? So some kind of an if statement. So I'll start it maybe here, right? Above my list. I'll put in an if statement. If what? This is the tricky part. If watch list, is that good enough? Sure? Let's try it. Where should the end go? The end if should go after the list, right? End if. Let's try this and see what happens. Maybe it'll work. I actually don't know. I don't know if this will do it or not. I just added an if statement. If I have a watch list, do this thing. If I don't have a watch list, don't do this thing. So let's go back here and refresh the page. Hey, it worked. Did you see that header went away? I still have the form though, but I can use a similar thing to do that as well, right? I can use a similar thing to make this form disappear. So let's do that next. I'm going to go back to my templates. I'm going to find the part with the cross-off form, which is right here. So I'm going to do something similar. If watch list, and then at the end of the form, I'll come down here and say and if. We can try it one more time. Go back and refresh the page, and now that's gone too. So if my list is empty, I don't see the stuff that isn't relevant. It's gone, right? It's not on the page anymore. And if I do have items in the list, so I can go back to main.py and put my old list back, right? Take this line out, put my old list back. If I do have items on my list, it will display those items. Does that make sense? Of course, yeah. The Python or the
edit of the second if.
I just use an if statement around the cross-off form, yeah.
I saw a style that was wrong.
That's okay. Are there any questions? Any questions? We actually made very few modifications to this code, right? It was a very small amount of code that we actually changed. It had a big difference on what the website ultimately will look like, how it will behave. That's a nice advantage of having things in templates. Alrighty. Well, if there aren't any questions, that's going to do it for today's class. Have a good weekend, everybody. Do me a favor. Don't think about templates tomorrow. Just take a day off. Don't think about templates. You can think about them over the weekend a little bit, maybe, if you want to, but give yourself a break, and we'll see you back here on Monday.